in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. He took not away in the pillar of the cloud by day, or the pillar of fire by night, from in front of the people. Exodus 14:24 and 38, and Numbers 19 verses 1 through 23 contain identical descriptions of Jehovah, and he leads Hebrew tribes to the promised land. The ancient Hebrew eyewitnesses responsible for the above descriptions were not able to get a closer look at Jehovah. The Bible points out that no one was permitted to approach Jehovah's mountaintop landing sites except Moses and a few select leaders. And a few select leaders. Jehovah had threatened to kill anyone else who tried. Jehovah had threatened to kill anyone else who tried. The early Bible therefore contains only descriptions of Jehovah as eyewitnesses saw him from a distance. It was not until much later that one of the Bible's most famous prophets, Ezekiel, was able to get a closer look and describe Jehovah in greater detail. Ezekiel, a description, and I see it's at 34. So if I read and I keep on going on part 2, then we should be at part 2. Salute y'all for rocking with me. We're still going in on this book. The ancient Hebrew eyewitnesses responsible for the above descriptions were not able to get a closer look at Jehovah. The Bible points out that not one was permitted to approach Jehovah's mountaintop landing sites except Moses and a few select leaders. Jehovah had threatened to kill anyone else who tried. The early Bible therefore contains only descriptions of Jehovah as eyewitnesses saw him from a distance. It was not until much later that one of the Bible's most famous prophets, Ezekiel, was able to get a closer look and describe Jehovah in greater detail. Ezekiel's description is probably one of the most often quoted biblical passages in UF literature. Ezekiel 1 through 15. Ezekiel's detailed account of strange aerial objects has created speculation of such intensity that even one Bible publisher, Tyndale, Tyndal House, prefaced its introduction to the book of Ezekiel with the title Dry Bones and Flying Saucers. At the risk of boring some readers with yet another repetition of Ezekiel's famous words, I reproduce them here for the benefit of those who are not familiar with them. Them hot boys on fire, hot boys. I had to do that. Shout out to Wayne and all them BG, Turk, Juve, baby, fresh, slim. Now it occurred. Now we're going back in here. And this is off Ezekiel now. Now it occurred in my 13th year in the 4th month, as I was among the captives by the river of Shabar, that the heavens were open, and I saw visions of God. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out the north, and a great cloud, and a fire flash, causing a brightness about it. And out of the midst of it gleamed something like a pale yellow metal. Also out of the mist it appeared 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had likeness of men, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was shaped like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished brass. And they had human hands under their 4-sided wings. Their wings were joined together, and they did not turn when they went. They all went straight forward. And for the appearance of their faces, they had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they had the face of an ox on the left side. They also had the face of an eagle. And amongst the living creatures glowed something like coals of fire, or lamps, which moved up and down between the creatures. And the fire was bright, and from out the fire flashed lightning. And the living creatures ran and returned by flashes of lightning. Now as I looked upon the living creatures, I saw 4 wheels upon the ground, one by each of the living creatures, with their four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their composition was like the color of shiny amber. The appearance of the wheels and their composition was like the color of shiny amber. And all 4 wheels had one likeness, and their appearance and their composition was like a wheel in the middle of a wheel. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went with them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. The wheels were lifted up. And the appearance of the skies upon the hills of the living creatures were reflected as the color of the terrible crystal stretched over their heads above. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings like the noise of great waters, as the voice of the Almighty, like the din of an army. When they stood still and they lowered their wings, and there was a voice from the crystal covering that, was over their heads. And there was a voice from the crystal covering that over their heads when they stood and had let down their wings. This is off Ezekiel. I believe that's 1 verse 25. Time is running down, so let's keep it going. The voice told Ezekiel it was the Lord. The voice told Ezekiel it was the Lord. The voice told Ezekiel. Not Ezekiel told Ezekiel. The voice told Ezekiel. And that's off Ezekiel 2:4. The first portion of Ezekiel's vision, the first portions of Ezekiel's vision resembles early biblical descriptions of Jehovah. A moving fiery object in the sky emitting smoke. As the object moved closer, Ezekiel was able to observe that the thing was made of metal. Out of the metal object emerged several human-like creatures, apparently wearing metal boots and ornament helmets. What does it sound like? Out of the metal object emerged several human-like creatures, apparently wearing metal boots and ornamented helmets. Their wings appeared to be retractable engines which emitted a rumbling sound and helped the creatures to fly. Their heads were covered by glass or something transparent that reflected the sky above. They appeared to be in some sort of circular vehicle or a vehicular wheel. Now, like I said in the last video, Christians, religious scholars, I have not left the Bible. This is in Ezekiel. This is your work. I have not left. That's why people love this, because I'm not saying fuck the Christians, fuck God, fuck Jesus. I'm saying, look, this is in your work. You need to go deeper, because in deeper you'll find the true essence of it. And the essence of it is magic. You do have to understand the black magic. Your church has told you ignore the black magic. Why? They told you ignore the white magic. Why? Because you're true who you really are. It goes in there in geometric shapes, gematria, and hidden symbols. But you don't know that because you so shake, shake, shake. Shake the devil off in the name of Jesus. Programmed. We can safely conclude from the above passages, that's the passage that we read, and this is what William's saying now, off of his study. These are the ones that went to Egypt and stuff and studied this stuff, while everybody else was grooming and doing what the hell they was doing down here. We can safely conclude from the above passages that Jehovah was not a supreme being. We can safely conclude from the above passages, Ezekiel, that Jehovah was not a supreme being. He appears to have been a succession of custodial management, and that's what they call it, angels and spirits, custodial. Of custodial management team operating over a time span of many human generations to enforce human obedience. We can safely conclude from the above passages that Jehovah was not a supreme being. He appears to have been a succession of custodial management team operating over a time span of many human generations to enforce human obedience. Those teams used their aircraft to perpetrate the lie that they were God. The custodial teams known as Jehovah helped the Brotherhood of the Snake embark on a program of conquest to spread the new one-God religion. Moses, the man chosen to command the Hebrew tribes on their exodus out of Egypt to the Promised Land, was a high-ranking member of the Brotherhood. One hint of this fact comes from the Bible itself, in which we are told how Moses was raised. How y'all doing? And this is the Acts. This is the Acts 7, chapter 7, 20, 22. In which time Moses was born and was exceedingly fair and was raised in his father's house for 3 months. And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and raised him as her own. He was never without. She raised him as his own son. And Moses became learned in all the wisdom. And Moses became learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and with mighty in words and in deeds. So if you got somebody who's already up on you and up on the masses telling you what to do, and they following your work, come on, man. Thank y'all for who's Light bulb, thank you. For the ones who tight ass, sit down somewhere. Egyptian historian and high priest Manetho, that's Manetho, 300 BC, states that Moses had received much of his education in the brotherhood under Akhenaten, Akhnaton, the very pharaoh who pioneered monotheism. And you know, monotheism, mono is the worship of one God. I don't need a book to know that, scholars. Henotheism is the worship of many gods. Monotheism is the worship of one God. Henotheism is the worship of many gods. I didn't need a Bible to know that, scholars. Oh yeah, the ego is definitely coming too, because sometimes you gotta let these people know. The meek inherit the earth, but look at the definition what meek means. Shout out to Meek Mills. Much respect to you, brother. Moses, a son of the tribe of Levi, that's Levi. I ain't got too much time left. One of the Hebrew tribes educated in Egypt, initiated at the Heliopolis, that's a beautiful place, I've been there, an Egyptian city, became a high priest of the brotherhood under the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep, or Akhenaten. He was elected by the Hebrews as their chief, and he adapted to the ideas of his people, to the science and philosophy, which he had obtained in the Egyptian mysteries. Proof of this are to be found in the symbols and initiation and in his precepts and commandments. The dogma of an only God which he taught was the Egyptian brotherhood interpretation and teaching of the Pharaoh who established the first monotheistic religion known to man. I gotta keep on going, we only got 2 minutes left. Strong evidence in support of Mano, or the guy I told you about, Manetho's statement, and found the early teachings of Judaism, which was deeply mystical and utilized many brotherhood symbols. Many of those mystical teachings are still taught today in Jewish Kabbalah, a secret religion and philosophy of Jewish rabbis, the ones who rule the world right now. That Illuminati. There you guys talk about Illuminati and so scared what Illuminati gonna do. You know what their secret is? You are the secret. You are the gift. The melanated one, the black one. You so dormant. You so in these movies and whatnot, the X-Men Avengers, you don't know that you're the Avengers. I am the living word because just like Christ, I chose to pick up the knowledge and the gnosis that nobody wanted to get. Everybody claimed to be Christians and Islamic and all that. But you don't understand the works. You won't read. And if the ones who read, the ego gets in the way. This is for the ones who don't understand, for the ones who never heard this. You cannot let your ego get in the way of this work. So don't blame the devil all the time when it's really your ego and you checking your ego. And for the ones who know the power of the ego, I remember back in the day I used to call it edging God over. But for the ones who know the power of the ego, you can balance that. And then you start to understand really the duality or the